Welcome to the Faith and Liberty Talk Show, where faith and liberty meet. Our host is Dave Garrison from Ohio Christian University, a longtime Fortune 100 company top executive and a former U.S. congressional candidate from Texas. Our goal for the Faith and Liberty Talk Show is to give you an opportunity to listen to interviews and discussions with significant authorities and experts on subjects related to Christians engaging in the civil and political arena. The mission of the show is to give you real information and not sound bites that you can really use. We have a website for the show, faithandliberty.org. At this website, you can obtain more information about the show, our guests, subscribe to our newsletter, and become a friend of the show, and like us on our Faith and Liberty Facebook page. You can also access all of our previous shows. Please keep in mind that the Faith and Liberty Talk Show exists only with the generosity and support of our listeners. If our show is of value to you, we would appreciate you visiting our website, faithandliberty.org, and donating to the show. Now, let's begin today's show. Thank you for joining us.
Today, we are so fortunate to have with us Hall of Fame quarterback Jim Kelly. And Jim was born in East Brady, Pennsylvania. He was brought on to the Miami Hurricanes as a four-string quarterback, drafted in the first round of the NFL, ended up going to the Houston Gamblers, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, I lived in Houston, Jim, when you were there, so I got to watch you quite a bit.
Those were some fun days, that's for sure.
Yeah, Houston's quite a city, but of course it's not Buffalo.
Nope, a little bit different, that's for sure.
And Jim has several nicknames, but one most of us are familiar with is Machine Gun Kelly. And I'm going to, for the listeners' benefits, I'm going to give them a couple of stats. And when Jim retired, he had an 84.4 passer rating. Jim had 35,467 career passing yards, which is 10th in the NFL history. 2,874 completions, ranked 8th, and his 237 touchdowns, ranked 13th. And he was inducted in the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2002 in Canton, Ohio. Jim has devoted a lot of his life to his son Hunter, who was diagnosed with Krabbe disease and passed away in 2005. And Jim, as the listeners I'm sure all are aware, you've been very active in that disease and trying to find a cure through the Hunter's Hope Foundation and some other things, and we really appreciate that. But before we get going, I wanted to tell you a little bit about who else we have here in the studio with us. I want to be sure the listeners know that I have a couple of guests here in the studio. Dr. Larry Olson, and he's the chair of Ohio Christian University's Psychology Department, from which this Faith and Liberty Talk Show originates. So I hope he doesn't try to psychoanalyze you and me, Jim, here. And he's capable of it, and he's that kind of guy. We also have retired Major Sean Lovell, and he's the head of our disaster management program and our criminal justice program. Now, Larry was born in Bradford, Pennsylvania, pretty close to East Brady. And Sean was born in Medina, New York, not too far from Buffalo. So,
Wow.
Yeah, so these guys have been following you for a long time, and they're really big fans. And since I spent most of my life in Texas, it is your team that did the choke on the Houston Oilers that ruined football for me forever.
Well, to be honest with you, I really wasn't a quarterback. Well, I played a few games against the Oilers in my career, and most of them were pretty good. But
it was Frank that did us in.
To is Frank Reich. Yeah, he brought him back from that comeback game, and that hurt a lot of people in Houston. That's for sure.
Yeah, we keep referring to it as the choke. Now, another thing, and this is nothing like you're going through right now with your jaw cancer surgery or anything. But Larry and I, Dr. Olson and I, we're trying to take credit for some linebacker mentality here because Dr. Olson has had major foot surgery, and he had to drag himself in the studio. And I had some surgery, and I dragged myself in here. So all three of us, except Sean here, who's retired Air Force, so he's perfectly healthy. because you know what the Air Force is like.
We're the walking wounded, and we have a few issues going on here.
Yeah, right. I really got excited after reading your playbook for dads, and all of us here in the room have read it. What were your main goals for writing that book?
Well, it's been, a number of years. I mean, my wife came out with a book called Without a Word, How a Boy's Unspoken Love Changed Everything. And really for, I guess families out there, fathers out there, I know how my dad raised his 6 boys and some of the things that I went through during the course of my life, and really wanted the kids and fathers to understand that, number one, I don't know everything, and number two is I try to make sure that the things I relate to and the things that I talk about are things that I've learned, not only from my father, but through my son Hunter, on how to be a better father, how to, help raise kids. And as I said before, I'm not the perfect father, but
and none of us are.
Something I really wanted the person reading, the reader, to really take a good grasp of it, and that things in our life, things happen in all of our lives. It's what we do about it's what counts, and that's pretty much what I did, and really also working with my wife, who is a unbelievable writer, New York Times bestseller writer.
Oh, yeah.
Really some of the things she's helped me with and guided me through during the course of not only some of our good times, but some of our bad times too.
I know you're not feeling super great with your recent jaw surgery, so I'm going to list a couple of those lessons that are in your book that I want to be sure the listeners know that are there, because they need to go out and buy your book. First of all, grab a leaf, and that's the whole thing about being thankful. That's a great lesson. Confidence. Where would you rather be than right here, right now? Respect, earned and given. Preparation, keep slinging it. 12, meaning your number. Passion, live like you were dying. Perseverance, when it's too tough for them, it's just right for us. And there's several other lessons that I won't give away, so that they'll be sure to buy the book. Now, let's quickly move into some faith-based questions, if we could. What were the factors that God used to bring you to Christ on that day in 2007? What do you think led up to all of that?
Well, there's a number of things. I know we don't have that much time to go, and I don't know if we have about 3 hours, but I was born and raised a Catholic, and I grew up in a family of 6 boys, and really, went to church. There's an altar boy, all those things. But to be honest with you, as time went on, I started really reflecting back on those days. It was more of just going through the motions. It wasn't devoting myself. It wasn't learning more on what I should have been. And of course, being a father of a little special boy named Hunter, who was born on my birthday, Valentine's Day, and then was diagnosed and passed away at the age of 8 years old. Yeah. All those things almost at the beginning was more turning me away from the Lord. Going to the Super Bowl was 4 in a row, not winning, and blow my shoulder out in college, and so many things were happening in my life, and I was being tested the whole way, and really probably not looking deep into what my beliefs were. And of course, after my son, all the things he has went through, and then all the things that my wife and I went through our marriage, that it wasn't going well. I wasn't the husband that I should have been. I consider myself always been a good father, but the part about husband and wife I was not very good at. And I knew, I guess, the bottom line is do I ever want to see my son again? You better believe it. And and when it came down to when I walked through my front door, I want my 2 daughters to look at their daddy with respect. And during those times, I was not a good husband, and I knew that if I did not change my life, if I didn't accept Jesus as my Lord and Savior, that things were going bad, and they were going bad quick. And I knew from that day I had to change my life, and I did. And to be honest with you guys, I wish I would have done it a lot sooner. I have never been happier in my life, even though I'm going through all my stuff I am now with my cancer. But the last couple of years, if there was anybody that was going a different direction, it would have been me. But I kept my faith, and I understand it, and I know now that, I do want to see my son again, and I am a lot happier now. So I'm feeling a lot better about my life, not so much my health, but you never give up, and I'll keep plugging forward.
Yes.
Jim, good to meet you this way. I'm Larry Olson. pleasure to meet you and talk to you. I read your book, actually, while I was convalescing after surgery, and I really appreciated your chapter that you stressed preparation. And in that chapter, with regard to Hunter, you said this, and I think this was a key statement in the book, a real statement of faith. We always had to be prepared because we never knew what each day would hold for our little soldier. But truth is, God was the only one that really knew and still knows what each day will bring. It's about trusting Him more with all of our moments. How has that particular concept played out for you in recent days, knowing what you're experiencing these days?
Well, the thing is, like I said, even before you even brought that up, Larry, was that there are things that are going to happen in all of our lives, is what we do about it, and never feeling sorry for yourself and being able to make something about it, but also knowing that there's only one person that understands what you will go through and what you are going through, and that's the Lord. And as long as you keep your faith, and as long as you keep staying focused, and I know there's a lot of things when I talk about focus in the book and talk about perseverance, it's really keeping your eye on the target, not wandering off. And I think we as Christians at times do wander a little bit, but it's being able to get back to the focal point, being able to get back where you need to be and where you belong. And as long as your heart's in it, we're going to be tested every day of our life, and we still are. And the old saying that we're all work in progress, I think that goes for not only myself, but I'm so blessed that I have a woman like my wife Jill, who is really the leader in our family when it comes to our faith. I am learning. I have a men's fellowship we do every month, but my wife is one where I learn each and every day. And as long as you stay focused on what's at hand, good things can only come of it. And we're all going to go through things, but as long as we keep our eye on the target, and that's the Lord.
This is Dave again. What do you think that God taught you through the life and loss of your son, Hunter?
Well, and the old saying, never take things for granted. And I think you do to a certain point. I was very blessed to have a professional career. I played professional football, and then when our son was born, how everything was going great. I retired from the game I loved. I had a beautiful daughter, and, thinking Hunter was here and everything was going to be fine. Never in a million years I ever thought it would happen to me. I had my 5 brothers. I have all brothers with boys and girls. None of them ever had illnesses. So you take that for granted, and then all of a sudden when something happens, you're like, why is this happening? And that is one of the things that I think I stress more to myself when I wake up in the morning, to spend the quality time you can with your kids, because you never know when tomorrow comes if they're going to be gone. So just all those listeners out there, just really remember that, because I know when our son left, he battled and he battled, and he was in the hospital in and out. And just being a tough kid that he was, you always thought that, he'll be all right, he'll be fine, he's a Kelly, And all of a sudden that day was swept from underneath both Jill and I. And it's like, wow. And then how much it hurts. Sure. But the thing is, it's a lot better being prepared when the ultimate down the road is we're one day closer to seeing him again and seeing God again. And Jesus sitting there. So we're always think about what is at the end of the tunnel, and it is a bright light.
We'll return with our guest Jim Kelly in a few moments after some messages from our sponsors. This is Dave Garrison, the host of the Faith and Liberty Talk Show. And before we get back with this week's guest, I wanted you to know that the Faith and Liberty Talk Show and Young America's Foundation, YAF, will hold a conservative women's conference for women and men on the campus of the Ohio Christian University on April 10th. The conference theme is Restore Our American Heritage, and will feature a number of Fox News contributors and political activists, including Star Parker, Kate Obenshane, Chrisanne Hall, Ashley Pratt, and Hadley Heath. As the host of the Faith and Liberty Talk Show, I will be the master of ceremonies. There will be breakout sessions covering the fraud of hope and change, Liberty First, Restore America, how healthcare reform will affect millennials and the rest of us, and the war on women. For more information, please go to the Faith and Liberty Talk Show website at faithandliberty.org. Again, for more information, please go to the website faithandliberty.org. Hope to see you on April 10th at Ohio Christian University.
You are listening to the Faith and Liberty Talk Show. We hope you are enjoying this week's show. After a short break to hear from our sponsor, Ohio Christian University, we will rejoin our host, Dave Garrison, and this week's guest.
Senator Rick Santorum, Dr. Ben Carson, and Dr. John Maxwell are coming to Ohio Christian University Monday, April 21st at 6 p.m. Get your tickets today at ohiochristian.edu for this riveting event. Tickets are going quickly, so secure yours now at ohiochristian.edu to meet Senator Rick Santorum, Dr. Ben Carson, and Dr. John Maxwell at Ohio Christian University on Monday, April 21st at 6 p.m. Made possible by Millwood Inc., The Computer Workshop, and Christian Healthcare Ministries.
Ohio Christian University is one of the fastest growing universities in the nation, offering undergraduate and graduate degree programs fully online in the areas of business, psychology, chemical dependency counseling, nursing, and ministry. You can earn an accredited, relevant, and affordable online degree, all from the comfort of your home. Now is the time to prepare for your future and earn your degree with Ohio Christian University. Call today at 855-OCU-GRAD or online at ocuonline.com.
You are listening to the Faith and Liberty Talk Show, where faith and liberty meet. Now, back to the discussion with our host, Dave Garrison, and this week's wonderful guest.
We return now with our guest, Jim Kelly. Have you seen the Bodie Miller interview where he broke down at the Olympics?
No, I didn't, but I saw they were going to be doing the interview with him, and I had to leave, so I was like, no, I want to see this, but I didn't have time, so no, I did not.
I'm not sure you're aware that there was a lot of criticism of the reporter who kind of kept asking him questions about his brother who had passed away. And what do you think about reporters who kind of push real hard in that area about someone's sorrow?
Well, the thing is, you have to have your limitations. You have to know who you're interviewing. You have to know what you want to get out of the interview. And you're talking to a former pro football player, an ex-professional athlete. So reporters have never been my favorite anyway. So they always stretch it to a point where, okay, now you're starting to cross the line, and that's when you need to change the subject. And it's funny because in one of the chapters in my wife's book, it says, so what else is going on? And that's always when me and my wife are in a disagreement. She knows when I want to change the subject, so she'll say something to me. I'll say, so what else is going on? So she knows, okay, next question.
Yeah. I'm going to have to try that one, Jim. I'm not sure that works for me quite yet. But one more kind of faith-based question, and then I'm going to ask Sean and Larry to ask a couple of more football questions because they'll bust if they don't get to ask them. If you had been a Christian, a man of faith that you are today, what difference do you think it would have made in your playing career?
That's a question that's hard to answer because I would personally feel that it wouldn't have made any difference as far as what I did on the football field. You never know. I went to church every Sunday. I guess I was into it to a certain point. But that's a tough question to ask. It's hard to really answer it. I would have loved to have been able to say that, we would have won 4 Super Bowls. But Frank Reich, who was a devoted Christian,
right.
He was my backup. And he got to play the majority of the time in our 3rd Super Bowl, and we still got beat. So I don't know. There's a lot of Christians on our team back then, and there was a lot of Christians on the other teams. So to say it would have had a big impact on my career, I don't know. But at least in my heart, I probably would have felt better, and I definitely would have lived my life differently than I did, to be honest with you.
Would it have made any difference in your leadership style? Because you're known for being a great leader.
Oh, I think to a point where I would have been more, not so much outspoken about my faith, but I would have tried to teach people more about my beliefs. I think my leadership as far on the football field would not have changed. I think that, it's just the way I was brought up. Maybe different aspects of the way I led would be a little bit different, but I definitely would have been a better person. There's no doubt. I'm taking nothing away what I did before. I had
Sure.
a blast. I did things, but I didn't do it the Christian way. But I still look back on my career, and you know what? It's God's perfect timing. I guess back then, to be honest with you guys, Christianity was pushed on me at an early time in my life, and to be honest with you, it turned me off. And I've always been a big believer in it's not what you say to somebody, it's how you say it to them. And I think my wife understood that with me, that I do believe in God. I do believe in all the things that you're supposed to and you should and what's understandably right. But when just like most people, it's how you present yourself. It's how you go about it. And it's just like being a leader on a football field. It's not always what you say, it's how you say it to somebody. How do you get your receivers? How do you get your offensive line to block in a way that you're not being pushy or you're being arrogant about it? It's how you present yourself to them in order for them not to join you, but not so much to follow you, but to join in your beliefs. And you got to earn that respect. And I think the way I led on the football field and I led off the football field was a way that's just the way I was. But now God's perfect timing was when our son went to heaven and I was on my knees. I needed something to straighten me out and to have me stay focused and understand what is at the end of the road. And it took me some time, but I'll tell you what, I know where I'm at now, and that's all counts.
What do you think about these players that a reporter runs up to them at the end of the game and the question that's coming? And before they'll even answer any kind of question to reporters, they start out, I want to thank God, first of all, who made all this possible. What do you think of those kinds of...
I love it. And, of course, it's how... You know what? There are people out there that get turned off by that, but I played basketball. Before every foul shot, I did the sign of the cross, and I thought that was a way to help me out. I said Our Father before every football game. I prayed after every game, thank you for not getting me hurt, or if I did get injured, I was one of those guys that would say Lord, please help me get through this and guide me. I've always been a very not so much religious, but a guy that always prayed, and I didn't always pray for what I wanted at hand. I prayed more for health and for my teammates and things like that. So there's different ways of going about it, and I'm one of those guys that always thank God for everything I've been given.
We'll return with our guest Jim Kelly in a few moments after some messages from our sponsors. This is Dave Garrison, the host of the Faith and Liberty Talk Show. And before we get back with this week's guest, I wanted you to know that the Faith and Liberty Talk Show and Young America's Foundation, YAF, will hold a conservative women's conference for women and men on the campus of the Ohio Christian University on April 10th. The conference theme is Restore Our American Heritage and will feature a number of Fox News contributors and political activists, including Star Parker, Kate Obenshane, Chrisanne Hall, Ashley Pratt, and Hadley Heath. As the host of the Faith and Liberty Talk Show, I will be the master of ceremonies. There will be breakout sessions covering the fraud of hope and change, Liberty First, Restore America, how healthcare reform will affect millennials and the rest of us, and the war on women. For more information, please go to the Faith and Liberty Talk Show website at faithandliberty.org. Again, for more information, please go to the website faithandliberty.org. Hope to see you on April 10th at Ohio Christian University.
You are listening to the Faith and Liberty Talk Show. We hope you are enjoying this week's show. After a short break to hear from our sponsor, Ohio Christian University, we will rejoin our host, Dave Garrison, and this week's guest.
Senator Rick Santorum, Dr. Ben Carson, and Dr. John Maxwell are coming to Ohio Christian University Monday, April 21st at 6 p.m. Get your tickets today at ohiochristian.edu for this riveting event. Tickets are going quickly, so secure yours now at ohiochristian.edu to meet Senator Rick Santorum, Dr. Ben Carson, and Dr. John Maxwell at Ohio Christian University on Monday, April 21st at 6 p.m. Made possible by Millwood Inc., The Computer Workshop, and Christian Healthcare Ministries.
Ohio Christian University is one of the fastest growing universities in the nation, offering undergraduate and graduate degree programs fully online in the areas of business, psychology, chemical dependency counseling, nursing, and ministry. You can earn an accredited, relevant, and affordable online degree all from the comfort of your home. Now is the time to prepare for your future and earn your degree with Ohio Christian University. Call today at 855-OCU-GRAD or online at ocuonline.com.
You are listening to the Faith and Liberty Talk Show. where faith and liberty meet. Now, back to the discussion with our host, Dave Garrison, and this week's wonderful guest.
We return now with our guest, Jim Kelly. All right, let's switch real quick because I know you're short of time. I'm going to ask Major Lovell here to ask a couple of football questions of you.
How you doing, Jim? Great to be able to talk to you. I've watched you over through the years, and it was very exciting, and I'm excited to be here today. But first question I have is, as we all know, Ralph Wilson is well into his 90s, and eventually that organization will have to be turned over to someone. And there's been talk before that yourself, along with some other former players such as Andre Reed and Thurman Thomas and Bruce Smith, that you might be interested in purchasing the team. Was this an actual true story, and would it be something that you would all entertain?
Oh, it'd be great if we made enough money. I think the four of our salaries right now, what we have, might be able to get the equipment manager paid for.
Yeah.
But we all know a number of people that are interested in the Bills, and I've had so many people come to me and say that they have the right person for the position of being the owner of the Bills. And my number one thing is, and to make a long story short, is to, number one, the only people that I'll ever deal with are the ones that want to keep Buffalo in Western New York. I would not entertain or listen to anybody that even wanted to move it anywhere else, whether it's Toronto, Canada, or it's Los Angeles, or whatever the case may be.
San Antonio would be all right.
Yes, I'll tell you what, that's a great place.
It is. That's where I'm from.
I played the San Antonio Gunslingers.
Oh, yeah.
I remember back that far.
Yeah, sure.
But, yeah, I think they definitely could get a team right. There's no doubt about it, but it will not be the Buffalo Bills. How's that sound? But, to end on this one, on that question, I just know that I'm just one of a few people that have interested parties in making sure the Bills stay in Buffalo. And Roger Goodell, Roger Goodell, who's our commissioner, is from upstate New York, and I know enough New York politicians that would not allow Buffalo Bills to leave. Plus, I don't think there's any owner out there that's in the National Football League now that would want to see the Buffalo Bills leave this area. So I'm confident it's going to be here, and I do pray that I'm part of it.
Awesome. Thank you.
That's good. Jim, Larry here. I want to jump back to a little bit of a football question here. And first of all, let me follow up something you said about winning one of those 4 Super Bowls. When my son was in his early teens when you guys were going through, we were in the Super Bowl years. I remember him telling a member of his youth group, he said he guessed God really doesn't care who wins football games, because if he did and answered prayer that way, the Bills would have won at least one of those 4. So moving along with that, during that 1988 season, Jim, you guys became known as the Bickering Bills. And I'm wondering, how did you as a team leader snap that team out of that? And what role did you play there?
I think it was a little bit of everybody. It wasn't just me, because I was one of the guys that probably orchestrated the Bickering Bills. We all had our egos. I wanted to be the best. Bruce, Thurman, Andre, Darryl Talley, Ken Hall. We all had egos, and we all knew that we had a heck of a football team. But if we did not play together, it doesn't matter who you are, you're not going to win very many games. And as long as we knew in our own minds that if we put our egos to the side, and focus on playing it together as a team, then we can do something with this. And I was blessed because we had a lot of great leaders on our team. Not only Bruce Smith and Thurman and Andre and Ken Hall and Darryl Talley especially, but for us, we had a guy by the name of Marv Levy. We had a great leader, and I think in any organization, whether it's business or sports, you got to have the number one guy out there, the guy that knows how to lead, and somebody that will join in his beliefs, and that was Marv Levy, our head coach. So it started from the top. And by him saying the things that he did, and being able to understand that he's got to let us be ourselves, but also understand that we're not going to get anywhere if we keep continuing to be individuals, that as long as we understood that we need to pull together, that we were going to make something of it. And we did. So it all started from the top, and that was with our head coach, Marv Levy.
That's great.
Yeah, this is Sean again. I've got another question now that you mentioned Marv Levy, obviously probably one of my favorite coaches, not just because he's a Buffalo Bills coach, but he, as Marv Leve being your former head coach and obviously a Harvard graduate, he's been noted for providing the team with many quotes throughout his time there in Buffalo, and probably still does. But and he seemed to have that great ability to motivate players at all levels. I'd like to mention one quote that kind of sticks in my mind is, "Adversity is an opportunity for heroism." How has this quote affected your life, and do you consider yourself a hero in respect to your family, friends, and fans?
No, I really don't. I mean, to a certain point, I think everybody in some part of their life might think that. But the hero of my book is my son Hunter, because he's the one that pretty much made me the man I am today. Because, yeah, we all have our egos. We all go through things in our life, and I've stated that a few times. But the one that really set me straight was seeing what he did, my only son, how he suffered through all that. And even though he never spoke a word, how he changed my life, how he became my hero. And I know what Jesus went through, and as far as, you know, which is, of course, well documented, but and even watching the movie The Passion, which me and my fellowship group are going to watch next week, because we have a couple of guys that we brought into our Bible study group that have never seen it. So there's heroes in all of our books, and mine all started with my father. I looked up to him, and then, of course, for me to look back at my son, who was going through so many things, knowing that, man, we don't have it as bad as you think we have. And he's been my hero since the day he was born, and more so after he passed away, because I know where I'm going now, and that's to visit my son again.
Great.
That's great, Jim. In my family, in my household here in Ohio, back when you were being inducted into the Hall of Fame, we all sat with rapt attention as you gave your speech and spoke to Hunter there at that Hall of Fame induction. Very, very moving. Wasn't a dry eye in my house, I'll tell you, after that. And I appreciate the fact that you have seen, wow, that was quite a statement. Your son, your only son, experiencing that, and that connects with what God the Father experienced for us, and I thank you for that. I want to go back to another football question, if I might, and I know we're getting close on time here. I teach a little sports psychology here at OCU, and I'm wondering what the mentality and the makeup was of those teams in the Super Bowl years. Let me ask you this: if that Scott Norwood kick had gone through the uprights, and the Bills won that first Super Bowl, would you have had the tenacity to get back there 3 more times?
We would have had the same focus, whether we would have done it or not. It's hard to tell what would have happened. And yeah, you wish you would have said maybe we would have won all 4. People said maybe you wouldn't have went back for 3 more. You don't know. You take it 1 year at a time. And the good thing about our team, to be honest with you, the work ethic that we had, and I know what my father instilled in me, but for us as players, we knew physically Bruce Smith was going to work out. He was going to lift, and Andre was going to run, and all the guys were going to physically do their part. But I think the biggest question was the mental part. After losing 1, then 2, and then 3, what is going to be the makeup going into the following year? Are you guys going to, look and say, man, I don't want to have to do that again? Or you're going to work that much harder as far as mentally preparing yourself? And I know I stated it earlier about Marv Levy being such our leader, always knowing what to say at the right time, not one of those guys that going to scream and yell at you, but he says things at particular time during the course of whether it's before the season, whether it's training camp, or whether it's during the season. He don't say things just to say it. He says it when he thinks that we need it. And for us, we would never went to 4 in a row if it wasn't for having the leader that we had, and of course the mental preparation that each one of us, because I relied on Andre Reed, I relied on Darryl Talley and Bruce Smith. I knew they were going to be physically fit, but I couldn't tell if they were going to be mentally there. And by us communicating and by us being so close, we had each other's backs.
Wow. That's a great answer, and I'm expecting it. With that answer, I'll probably use those quotes in a sports psychology class as I'm working with future coaches. So thanks for that answer.
All right, I know.
No problem.
Okay, Jim, let's cover a couple things, and then we'll let you go because we so much appreciate your time. I don't know if you've heard.
It's about to explode now.
Charlie Strong is the new head football coach of Texas, and being a Texan, I'm paying attention. But it's all over the internet in the last couple of days. And, we have all these college athletes here at our university. It's faith-based, and our basketball team has won national championship in their division, we'll call it. But Charlie Strong sent out a list of 11 things, and I'm only going to read a couple of them, for his players, which people are going berserk when they heard about them. And the first one is, players will attend all of their classes and sit in the front 2 rows of all their classes. GAs, academic folks, position coaches will be checking on this constantly now. No headphones in class, no texting in class, sit up and take notes. If a player misses a class, he runs until it hurts. If the player misses 2 classes, his entire position unit runs. If he misses 3, the position coach runs. The position coach does not want to run. You were a great college athlete. What do you think of a coach that's pushing character and academics like that?
Well, some of those were exactly what I had with Howard Schnellenberger. If you missed class, it's called the Breakfast Club. You got up at 6 o'clock in the morning, you had to run 3.5 miles, and nobody wanted to do that. I think it's a little bit going overboard when you tell them they have to sit in the first 2 rows. That's a little questionable. But the bottom line is, I think he's just trying to stress that academics are so important that you better get your butt to class. And for us, we had a sergeant at arms. We had Howard Schnellenberger. We did not want to miss class. And, that's part of it. That's part of being a college athlete is going to class. And I think I don't know all 11 that he talked about, but I know a couple of those were the same that we had back in the late 70s. So, hey, more power to him. I'm sure people are not going to agree with everything on that list, which I did not. I said the one about the first 2 rows, but I think the bottom line is you got to get your education, and that's so important because I think, what is it, 3 or 4% of all college football players make it into the NFL, and that's the odds of you making it to the NFL are very slim, so you better study.
But here's a question. One of my favorite movies of recent has been Moneyball with Brad Pitt, and where he played that role of Billy Beane for the Oakland A's. I don't know if you've seen it. But
no.
But he has a quote in there, and Billy Beane, the general manager, says, "I hate losing more than I even want to win." I hate losing more than I even want to win. How's that strike you?
I don't know, because I wish I had that feeling of what it meant to win at the end of the game. I know how bad it feels when you're in that losing locker room in the Super Bowl. And of course, I've won championships. We won the AFC championship 4 years in a row, and I know how good that felt. But to be honest with you, the losing in that Super Bowl, I don't know if there's anything. Yeah, there's only one thing that was worse than that, and that was losing my son in 2005. Sure. That was the only thing. They don't even compare. One's life and one's just a game. But I'll tell you what, it doesn't feel good sitting in that losing locker room, that's for sure.
Well, if people would like to contribute to Crab A disease or get involved, what should they do?
Well, the bottom line is to make sure all the listeners understand we're focused on universal newborn screening, and with our foundation called Hunter's Hope, and it's to give every child in this country a chance at a quality of life and be able to set dreams and goals like we were. We're focusing on newborns when your baby's born. They do the heel prick and they send that blood spot off to a lab. But unfortunately, in our country, thousands and thousands of babies are dying every year because they're born in the wrong state, and every state is different on how many diseases they test for. We're getting there. We've gotten a lot of states to go from like 11 to 29, 11 to 30. New York has went from, I think, 10. Now they're over 50, but we're still miles away from making sure that every state gives their kids in that state a chance to set dreams. So just log on to huntershope.org. Look what we're doing with our foundation. Look what we're doing to raise awareness and, of course, raise as much funds as we can to make sure we get the word out.
Fantastic. Well, we thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks, Jim. We really appreciate the time, and great to meet you this way and talk with you.
My pleasure, guys, and thank you very much. God bless you and your families, and I continue to pray for my family, and particularly myself, and hopefully this cancer will be gone, and I won't have to worry about it down the road.
We'll be praying for
do that.
On behalf of our host, Dave Garrison, I'd like to thank you for listening to the Faith and Liberty Talk Show today. For additional information about the show, please go to faithandliberty.org where you can access previous shows, like us on our Faith and Liberty Facebook page, and access other resources. Please keep in mind that the Faith and Liberty Talk Show exists only with the generosity and support of our listeners. If the show is of value to you, we would appreciate you visiting our website, faithandliberty.org, and donating to the show.